Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. I would say quarantine coaching conversations, but we're not really quarantined anymore per se. I think a lot of us are still staying inside as much as we can or trying to social distance as much as we can because we know that we haven't gotten rid of this virus, and there's still a lot of things out there that we don't understand about it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another. As we continue to work through this, I want to tell everybody out there, be safe. Keep yourself as distant as possible. Use a mask. I know it's a pain in the butt, but use a mask when you need to use a mask. If you know you're going to be in confined spaces with a lot of people, don't live in fear. Get outside, get some sun. That's good for you, but really be smart about what you do, because those who I've seen contract this disease and have actual symptoms of it, it can be deadly, and it can be really debilitating. So please be careful out there. I also would be remiss if I didn't tell everybody out there that, keep up that social awareness. I'm starting to see things wane off some, and all of a sudden now people are finding other avenues for their thoughts and their actions. But these things were never going to be solved overnight. And so if you see injustices out there, don't become numb to them. Make sure that you still take action and stand up for people that you know are being done wrong. Stand up for people that you know that are being preyed upon, and do everything that you can. We need everybody to be involved in order to make things better, not just, a few of them. So please continue to show your support for those. If you're in the trenches, make sure that you're careful, but also, understand that what you're fighting for, it may just be bigger than you. And sometimes those sacrifices are made. And so we appreciate everybody out there that are doing those things. I'm really pleased today because I am joined by a high school friend, a gentleman I haven't actually spoken to in a long time, Coach Spencer Van Meter, who is now the offensive coordinator at Lando Lakes High School. Spence, thanks for joining us, Coach.
Hey, man, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I wanted to speak to you and really get your perspective on it, because I know that you were able to spend some more personal time with this gentleman. And back on June 7th, the world found out that Donald Caldwell, everyone really knows him as Reche Caldwell now. I remember him as Donald Caldwell before the Reche. Donald Caldwell, the quarterback. Donald Caldwell, the everything football player. He was shot to death, and when things happen, it really, I know for me, it hit home, because anytime it's something that's either close to my era or falls dead line on my era, I begin to think back to my interactions with those players. And Coach, I know that you had a relationship with Reche, and I wanted to really get your thoughts about it, and really do what we do when people pass away as athletes. We pay homage to how awesome they were as athletes, and that's really what I want to have an opportunity to do, is just talk to how phenomenal this man was on the football field, and almost in anything he wanted to do. I mean, he was just phenomenal in all areas.
Yeah, absolutely. Reche, we used to call him Shay. He was hands down the greatest athlete I've ever been around. Playing or coaching, I've been blessed to be around a lot of amazing athletes at Jefferson High School. Alex Suber and Steven Garcia and Quentin Williams and Andre Davis and Rameek Wilson and so on and so forth. He is hands down the greatest athlete I've ever been around and seen. He was also a tremendous baseball player. I believe he was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds coming out of high school. And, when I heard the news at first, it was one of those things like, no, 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 not Shay, no, not Reche, one of those things. And, then you found out what the truth is and you hear it. And, like you said earlier, when, we all graduated the same year, and you're just, it doesn't seem real until you see, till you go to the wake and you see everything in front of you. And it's a shame. I mean, he was just a phenomenal athlete, and he was a great teammate. He was a great teammate. Was a fierce competitor, and was always just smiling and laughing, cracking jokes, and just couldn't ask for a better teammate.
Yeah, and it's interesting when we look at the way a lot of people pass away, especially when they are murdered. Everybody begins to look for the reasons why, and their attention always turns to something negative. It always turns to, oh, well, what was he involved in? Why were people targeting him? What's this and what's that? And to me, it comes down to the fact I don't know what was going on. I'll never know, and I really don't want to know. The only thing that I do know is that there are evil people in this world. There are people who are looking to get something because they can't get it for themselves, and they're willing to take it from others. And what I do know is that, somebody looked at him and they saw a cash register. Whether that was what he was or what he wasn't, it didn't matter to whomever was the person that decided that they were going to take his life. They wanted it. He wasn't willing to just give it to them. And because he was willing to, they took his life. And to me, it's an unfortunate thing, because I've always said that the power that athletes have is not really when they're playing. It's after they're done playing, and they can begin to use the influence that they've been able to garner from being an athlete. We see it time and time again. Look at how many of our our contemporaries are now coaches, or are running nonprofits, or running different training groups, and every day they get a chance to mentor and train and teach young men and women how to be better, not just better athletes, but better people. You see it with professional athletes at that level, where they're able to use their status and their influence to be a positive example to a lot of people out there. So the fact that we don't get a chance to see this man anymore at 41 years old it's sad. And I would just say that there's just a better way out there for people. We need to preserve, we need to see our guys who are living legends get an opportunity to make it into their 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, because those are when that's when the legend becomes folklore. And then people start saying, I want to be like that dude was when he was, that age. So very, very disappointing in the way in which a lot of times these fallen heroes get portrayed. I mean, I even remember to the Kobe Bryant, where they started trying to, why was he trying to fly the helicopter? I heard he was told that it was too murky out in order to be out. They're trying to throw tarnish on his name. Oh, remember what he did back in Colorado, God knows how many years ago, before he was who he is now. And to me, it's always unfortunate when you see that type of thing.
Yeah, and that's what's the shame. You were talking about, just the influence that athletes have, and I think people really underestimate that, because, good and bad, there is a spotlight that's put on you when you're an athlete, and you get fame and notoriety. Sometimes you get money and you have influence, but also that spotlight puts it on you for people to, as a target. It's not just a spotlight. And unfortunately, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of what happened, but it seemed like some people targeted him as, like you said, as a way to get their own. And, it's a shame because he was, a great teammate, a great friend for a while. And, he was doing some positive things that, we had talked about at the wake, and people were saying he was doing good things. And it's just a shame because, like you said, you don't get the opportunity to continue to work with people and mentor people. And there's a reason why people like me and you are still coaching. And it's not because we love football and we love to win, but that's not even about it. It's about mentoring other young men and young women to strive for something better. We just use the forum of football or baseball or basketball to get that point across. And he was starting to do the same thing with a lot of the youth 7-on-7s in the area and working with kids. And it's a shame because, someone with that type of, like you said, a living legend, and just the amount of stories of people that I've talked to of just, oh, you remember when he did this, you remember when he did this and did this. And, it is almost mythological of like, how can someone do that? And, the influence that person can have on the youth, for decades to come has now been wasted over someone's jealousy or greed. And, that's just, unfortunately, that I don't think that'll ever go away.
Yeah, and it's crazy. I want to pivot because I really want to celebrate, the life and really look back at some of the things that he accomplished, especially back in high school. I remember going all the way back to middle school. The way that middle school is set up in Hillsborough County, for people who don't know, back when we were there, it was junior high.
It was 8th and 9th grade.
8th and 9th grade. And it wasn't your Rudy Poo, go and watch people play bad basketball or football. It was legitimate. People weren't foregoing playing junior high school to play youth league back then. Like, you were playing for your junior high school because it was a status symbol and everybody wanted to be known as the man playing. I actually didn't play football in junior high until my 9th grade year. That was the first time I ever played regulation football, because they kept trying to make me, like, youth football kept trying to make me be positions that I was not supposed to be because they had weight restrictions. And I was tall. Yeah. And tall to them meant, oh, well, he's tall, he's tough, let's put him on the offensive line. And I'm like, I'm a wide receiver, dude. What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? I'm not playing the offensive line. So I didn't play, but I remember even back then, football, basketball, baseball, you knew Donald Caldwell.
Yeah, you heard about it. And we were in Northdale, and you still heard, it's not like today where there's Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and all, TikTok, all these other stuff where, you hear about people states away or whatever. It was really localized. Like, growing up for us, like it was Daryl Jackson and Kenny Kelly and Jarris and Will and, all those guys. And then you kept hearing about Donald Caldwell. Yep. Donald Caldwell. And then you start seeing the newspaper articles and all this other stuff. And I mean, as a sophomore, he set the world on fire. He set the world
Absolutely.
on fire as a sophomore.
I remember going into our junior year, they put 4 quarterbacks on the cover of the newspaper for the high school.
Yeah, I remember that.
Every year they do a high school, kickoff for high school football, and they had 4 quarterbacks on the front, and all of them were seniors except one guy.
Yep.
There was Kenny Kelly.
Yep.
It was Robert Garcia. Was it Robert Garcia?
It was Jeremy Earl.
No, Jeremy Earl was there too.
Okay.
It was Jeremy Earl. I know who it was. It was Godsey.
Yes. Okay.
Gary Godsey.
A Jesuit, yeah.
George Godsey, the older brother.
Yeah.
George Godsey, Kenny Kelly, Jeremy Earl, and Donald Caldwell. And you're like, wait a minute. Like all of these dudes are seniors. This dude's a junior. That's because his sophomore year, he had almost 3,000 yards passing and, 1,100 yards rushing. And I mean, he was just a one-man wrecking crew. And then with everybody in the county knowing that he was the man, he ran it back his junior and senior year and still put up ridiculous numbers, which is why I still think that one of the biggest tragedies ever was not being able to see that man play quarterback in college.
Listen, I truly believe if today's college system had been run back then, the spread offense, the running quarterback, the Lamar Jackson type of offense, he would have destroyed it because he
would have destroyed people.
Because back then, no one was running those type of offenses. The closest.
Well, nobody was running it where the quarterback was the weapon in the scheme of the offense. Yeah. It was the quarterback had the athletic ability to do something with it if things broke down.
Had two types of offenses back then. You had either Charlie Ward at Florida State, where it's a shotgun and we're going to, throw it around, or you had Tommy Frazier, where you're going to line up under center and run the triple option under center.
Triple option, yep, absolutely.
But now, if you took a guy like Donald Caldwell or Reche Caldwell and you put him in that type of offense where he could do the zone read and hit and just go and throw a bubble screen. And
absolutely, he would kill people.
It's like
kill people.
Like stealing.
It's still uber impressive that he was able to go to Florida, transition to wide receiver. He had never played wide receiver before. Mm-hmm. I think people don't understand because they just think that, these things are just interchangeable. Wide receiver is not easy. It's not an easy position to play. And I grew up playing a position. It's a position that takes a lot of nuance, takes a lot of understanding. It takes a lot of heart. And Reche essentially just went, okay, quarterback's through. I'm going to be a wide receiver now, and became one of the best wide receivers in the nation like that. And parlayed that into an NFL career. And that's
so a lot of people he's seventh all time in receptions at Florida.
Yeah.
And you're talking about a lot of great receivers.
A lot of great receivers.
And he was
a lot of great receivers.
I want to say he was a second round draft pick out of college.
Now, yeah, no, I mean he had a nice NFL career. And he had the opportunity to be there legitimately. I had Jarris McIntyre on a few weeks ago, and we were talking. And he got a cup of coffee.
Let's not underestimate Jarris's athletic ability. He was one of the best I've ever did. Hey,
absolutely.
Hey, hold on, real quick. Me, him, and William Glover and Ray Spann played on the same Little League football team in Citrus Park.
Yeah, that's unfair. That's unfair.
Those guys,
being somebody that played with all those dudes, it's just not fair. Yeah. That's not right. It's not right. But no, like Jarris was a guy who, he was good. He was athletic, but he wasn't Reche. You know what I'm saying? As far as an athlete goes, and he was able to get a cup of coffee in the league, and do some things over in Europe too. But Reche really had that opportunity to go there and shine, and be in the spotlight. He got that opportunity that, a guy like Jarris wasn't really able to ever get that full opportunity where he had enough cachet through his draft position that allowed him to get the opportunities just because, and you see guys like that and you're just like, man, this guy. Like people will always point to, well, he wasn't that great in the league, and it's like, dude,
he had
everybody's great in the league.
Yeah,
everybody's great. Yeah, everybody's great in the NFL. There are no bums in the NFL.
No.
There are no bums in the NBA. There are no bums in Major League Baseball. There are no bums in the NHL. Like once you get to those leagues, it's a different story. It's a different level of, it's the 1% of the 1%. Like we are prisoners of fame. we're prisoners of fame, and so we a lot of times see the fame, but we just don't see the actual talent that goes with it. And so a guy like Reche being ultra talented, he could have done anything. I firmly believe he could have been a high level college, anything he wanted to be.
Yeah.
Football player, basketball player, baseball player, soccer, it wouldn't matter.
Track. He ran
track too. He was good in track. Just a guy that all over the place. I remember playing. I remember, playing him and people going, oh, you just have to keep him from getting outside. That was the whole thing.
Yeah.
With Reche back in the day. Oh, you just got to keep him from breaking the pocket. And so they're rushing him outside. He steps up and just boom, like 0 to 60, like he just got shot out of the gun, gone. And everybody's looking around because Reche was a well put together kid. He wasn't a super skinny dude.
Yeah.
So when he broke, he looked like a running back running.
Yeah.
As opposed to looking like, a quarterback or a wide receiver. He was built like he had some girth on him. Yeah. Tell us a little bit about, as far as mentally, when he was going into the game, how was he when you were getting ready to go into a game? How did he approach game day?
He was always relaxed. He was never overly hyped. He was never down. He was very even keeled, and he was calm. And, sometimes I remember when we first started, we would first, I remember the first game we played Blake of our senior year, and we go out there and he's not, hooting and hollering. He's just, warming up, and, you're kind of looking at him like, is he ready to play? And then he takes the first snap and you're like, oh yeah, he's ready to play.
He's good.
And it was crazy because a lot of people don't give him credit for how smart he was as a football player. People just think he's just this phenomenal athlete and he could just go out there and make things happen. But I remember sometimes we would just be in the huddle and he would say, hey, if they do this again, I'm just going to tap you on the hip and we're going to run quarterback draw in the middle of the field. It could, and it didn't matter the down or distance. And they'd give us the look. He'd tap me on the side. We'd run quarterback sneak, and I'd hit the Mike linebacker. He would cut and go 60. And it was just things like that he would just pick up on. And he was also our punter. And so if you didn't rush him the right way, he was just going to go. He wasn't going to punt it. He was just going to go.
And that's just unfair having a dude like that as the punter. I mean, that's not even right.
Yeah, and he was just fun. He was just always funny. He was calm, and then he'd say something. And he'd say some things in the huddle sometimes, and you would just look at him, and it just gets you laughing. And like we're playing Armwood, and Armwood Jefferson is a big rival, and so Reche pulled off a fake punt and ran down and scored. We go up with a couple minutes left, and we get in the huddle, and it maybe a minute or two left, and he just looks at all of us. He goes, man, y'all better not get me killed. They're going to try to kill me. Y'all better block. And we're like, man, we're doing our best, man. We're doing our best. And, and he really didn't brag and boast a lot. Like if you were kind of talking trash with him a little bit, he'd talk back, but he was never just like, oh, look at me, that kind of dude. Just very calm, humble. And, on game days, he was just a silent assassin. You would just go out there and you'd be like, damn, like I can't believe he just did that.
Yeah, no, I remember playing basketball and he wasn't playing the senior year, and I saw him because he was at the game, and anytime any of us would see each other, we dap each other. We all come from the inner city. We all went to different high schools. I don't really know how that happened, but whatever. Like we only lived probably 5 minutes away from each other, just in the way in which, the inner city of Tampa is set up, maybe 10 at the most, he's down in West Tampa. I'm down in Riverview Terrace, and so not not very far from each other, so we saw each other all the time through various events. But I remember seeing him, I was like, "Hey man, what's going on?" He's like, "Man, they ain't letting me play," and he was like, "But I'll see you in track season though," and I was like, "You definitely will." I mean, everyone loved to compete, and I know he loved to compete. Loved to talk. I mean, it wasn't like trash talking. It was just more like
competitive.
Yeah,
he wanted to go out and just show
absolutely.
I remember he would just say, "Watch this," and then, like I remember like you said, he didn't play basketball his senior year, and we're warming up, getting ready to play, and he comes out. This is back in the day where you had the big lugs jeans and the Timberland boots and all
absolutely.
This stuff. And so he's out there, and and he just comes out. He ball kind of comes to him. He grabs it and he goes, "Spence, watch this." Takes a couple dribbles, and then Timberlands and baggy jeans goes up and just throws it down. And I was like, "How do you do this? Your boots weigh 8 pounds at least. How do you do this? How do you do this?" And it was just, he was one of the only dudes I've ever been around where when he had the ball, people stopped. People were on the edge of their seats because you knew it could happen. Anything, whether it was baseball, football, track, and watching him run track, it was just like, good Lord. Like
dudes were flying. I remember I used to think, I've always looked at myself as being an all-around, an all-around athlete. I played football, I played basketball, I ran track, I did it all at a pretty high level. But to know that you're not that athlete, you know what I'm saying? It's like, I'm fast. Like I'm fast. I'm not that fast. I can jump. I can't jump that high.
He was a different level of fast. He was level. I mean, like I've never seen a faster football player in person in my life.
Yeah, my fast snuck up on you because I had long legs. So I would boom, boom, boom. You think I'm not going as fast as I am, and all of a sudden
we're gaining ground.
Absolutely, absolutely. His was blink. It's like boom. Dude, wait a minute.
he was the holder on the extra point, and he would just catch the ball on the extra point and just get up and run around and get the 2-point conversion. Run. And you're like, how do you outrun someone that's 8 yards to the outside running full speed at you, and you just get up and go? And it was like I said, it was crazy to watch. And as an offensive lineman, there were times where we'd be in the meeting the next day, and he was just like, "Will you stop looking at him? Do stuff." Like, okay, yeah, you're right. I gotta go.
Stop watching him and doing block somebody, right?
Yeah.
The same stuff that you're talking about to your players today is what the coach was telling you back in the day.
Yeah, like, geez, but like you would, you're blocking. All of a sudden, you would just feel this, and you'd look up and he's gone. It's like, all right, let's go celebrate. Run down there and just huffing and puffing, and he's already scored. I mean, but what my favorite Reche story that I have, and it's a personal one, was so I transferred to Jefferson, and Jefferson,
Oh no, we know.
Yeah, I know.
We know. And, but for those of you that don't know, we should probably actually tell you. So Spencer was a traitor.
Oh no!
He was a traitor. That's
a harsh word. Traitor is a harsh word.
What is your high school diploma say on it?
Jefferson High School.
Exactly. What is the first 2 years of your high school career say?
Gaither.
Yes, exactly. So as a proud Gaither High School alum, Spencer was with us at Gaither in the trenches. It was supposed to be our year, this senior year. We had finally gotten out of we're going to run wing T all damn day.
Yeah.
And I look up and Spencer's transferred to Jefferson.
It wasn't just me, it was Greg too.
No, there was a ton of people left, by the way. It was a lot of people, but it was me because I had not transferred for 2 years in a row because everybody wanted me to go to Chamberlain. And I'm like, nah, I'm Gaither, I'm a Cowboy. This is where I am.
So let me preference that by saying, like, I had no problem staying there, and I loved Coach Rob Taylor. Remember the offensive line coach we had? He played 12-year NFL vet, and he taught me more stuff in the time that I was with him. And going into the spring of our junior year, when it was, that was our team, after like Denny Haywood graduated, Clint Moore, all those guys had graduated.
Absolutely.
And I go to the first practice and he's not out there. And I asked Coach Howler, I was like, what happened to Coach Taylor? And he's like, I had to fire him. And I was just, and then they hired I don't even remember the guy's name, but he was about 88 years old and was teaching like 1934
arm flipper. Yeah.
And I was just like, I remember I went home and I told my dad, I was like, I gotta get out of here. I can't play for that guy. So here's another. So I'm getting to the end game with my Reche story, but so I'm great friends with Jarris McIntyre and William Glover. Right? Grew up with them, and so at that point it had become like, was I going to go to Jesuit or Tampa Catholic? And so one Saturday morning, my dad wakes up because my dad coached with Cedric McIntyre at Citrus Park when we all played. So he's like, hey, why don't you have Spencer come up to a Saturday practice and check out TC? So we go up there. And guess who was up there? Lynn Bradford. Remember Lynn Bradford? Well, he was the head coach at Jefferson. So he was up there just watching practice. And he saw me. He was like, Spence, what's going on? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, why don't you come check us out at Jefferson, man? Come check us out. And, we got, Donald Caldwell's quarterback and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, okay. So I go down to Jefferson and they treated me like I walked the halls with a red carpet. Like it was crazy. It was crazy. And I think the statute of limitations has long passed for recruiting violations, but
we're good. We're good. 20 plus years now. We're good. Yeah.
So I walked the halls and, I met all the guys and all this other stuff. And I was just like, man, this is where I'm gonna go. And so long story short, yes, traitor, I'll wear the moniker at this point.
How dare he? And then this man had the nerve. He had the nerve to show up at like homecomings and proms and stuff. Like the audacity of this dude. I love you to death, Spence. It's all good. I'm just, but I'm razzing you.
But you know what's funny though? Every person I taught, like I taught Andrew Young not that long ago.
Yep.
Said the same thing. He was like, "You left us out in the cold, man." And
left us.
I was like, "Damn
it!"
It's like
you gotta understand how hard it was. Like I had literally between being recruited by like every goddamn private school known to man, and then the community push that I had to go to Chamberlain.
Yeah.
Because when the district shifted, I was actually in district to go to Chamberlain.
Yeah.
And it could have been like a really ridiculous team. Like they had a quarterback, they had Donald, they had Dejan playing wide receiver. Now I would have been on the other side. Ned Yost was down there playing tight end. I mean, it was a loaded squad, and the basketball would have been ridiculous. I was going to win district championships, whether I stayed at Gaither or whether I went to Chamberlain, because I was the person that was swinging it one way or another. And I stayed, and I was just like, when there were people who left, I was just like,
damn,
ain't that a bitch? Like, I wasn't mad. I understood it. I understood why you had to go. But it was definitely sad, especially because our offensive line averaged like 205 pounds.
Yeah.
We had a bunch of middle linebackers playing offensive line. It was pretty bad.
So yeah, getting back to my Reche story. So yeah, I transferred to Jefferson, and when you transfer in, it's not that they're they accepted me, but you still had to earn your stripes. They didn't just come in like, oh, you're this. Well, guess what? We got 10 of you already, so you have to earn your stripes. So we're going to play Blake. And this is Blake's first game since they had reopened. Right. And so it was like the first or second quarter, and we're already up, 28-0, whatever. And Reche rolls out to the left to our sideline. And he gets tackled kind of late out of bounds, but it wasn't too bad. Well, the guy kind of stands up and kicks Reche in the head. and I'm standing maybe about 15 yards away from it, and something clicked in my head, and I just sprinted over there, and I just come across this dude's face like boom, knock him flat over. The benches cleared, and the coach, Darley Nelson, grabbed me. He pulled me back, goes, "Take your jersey off right now." So I took my jersey off, and I'm just standing there, and they didn't know who to throw the penalty on because they didn't catch the number, right? So as we're walking out of halftime, all the Jefferson people, the student population, was like right there, like waiting for us, and I'm like, oh man, what the hell's about to happen? And one was like, "That's that badass white boy. Yo, he came to play. You gonna protect Reche? That's what's up. That's what's up." Give me daps and everything. And I'm just like, all right. And from then on, I was cool. And
he was good. He was a badass white boy.
Good. And that was my and Reche was and we get in the locker room, and all the dudes was like, "That's what the F I'm talking about. That's what don't let no one touch Shea." And I was just like, all right, cool. And he was like, "Good job, Spence." Because Shea had that gravelly voice, like
yeah.
For 15 years. And yeah, that's kind of how I got my stripes at Jefferson, was that little. And I still got the tape of that game. And I'll show my players that sometime. I'm like, see, that's how you protect the quarterback right there. It's like
I don't have any video of high school.
Yeah, I got one tape that has 3 games on it. And
I don't have any high school video.
You got a better chance of finding your game tape than you do a VCR to play it in.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true. But if I found my game tape, I could find a way to convert it, because I'm that kind of technology nerd. Yeah. And so it's like Reche's death kind of brought back out some other times that I was thinking about, people who passed away. I remember, I think it was 04, when Kwame Doster died, was murdered. He was a back out of Robinson, and went to Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
And I remember everybody had high hopes, because it wasn't just that he went to college. He went to college at Vanderbilt.
He was smart.
Vanderbilt, they don't play you can play, so we'll let you in game. You have to be a Vanderbilt man first, and then a football player. So the fact that this dude was able to go to Vanderbilt, and it wasn't like he was there and washed out for a year or 2 years. He was thriving. To lose a man like that, and I don't know if he makes it to the league, but I know that he was going to have a Vanderbilt education.
Yep.
And I know that at some point he was going to bring that knowledge back to the community, because he loved Tampa, and he loved representing Tampa. And the idea that someone like that doesn't get the opportunity to come and be an influence in the place, and people who know anything about where Robinson is located at, that Port Tampa area, old school Rembrandt, these are not easy places to grow up. And so, every time we lose someone who can potentially be a mentor or an example of how to do it, it just brings us one step further down. And I think for me, the biggest example is when I found out that Desmond Allison was murdered in Columbus, Ohio. And for me, Desmond Allison's the greatest athlete I've ever seen with my own eyes.
He was something else. People don't really remember how great he really was. But the difference between him and Shea was Shea had almost like a cult following of almost a myth about him, about how fat, how all this. Then Desmond would go out and do stuff where you're just like, how in the hell did he just do that? And that was one of those, Well,
the thing about Desmond that gets lost is that, it's basketball, and it's basketball in Tampa. So like his claim to fame was basketball early on. Basketball is in Tampa. Tampa is a football place. So if you're playing football, you're going to get all of that esteem. I mean, he played in the same school as Zane Gilmore. Zane Gilmore was Mr. Football our senior year. Larrell Johnson was a first-team All-State guy who went to Louisville our senior year. Those two dudes were on the same basketball and football team. But Des never played football until his senior year. And in that 1 year with a quarterback that wasn't that great, by the way, Robinson's quarterback at that time was I mean,
I could have played quarterback throwing it up to Desmond.
Absolutely. And I mean, the things that he was able to do reminded me of how people didn't see Darrell Jackson play football in junior high school. Yeah. And then he went to
Tampa Catholic.
Like, Darrell Jackson plays football because they didn't realize, like, you know, he does whatever the hell he wants to do because he's a 1%er of the 1%. Yeah. And that was Desmond Allison. When you add in the 6'5" frame, the 40-inch vertical, the long, ridiculous, like scratch your knees, standing up arms, basketball IQ, like football acumen. He even went out and ran the 400 and was a state qualifier in the 400. I mean,
the state of Florida, which if you
the state of Florida, like,
you're fast.
It is what it is. We're fast down here. You know what I'm saying? Like the amount of things that he was able to do as an athlete, to be able to go to Kentucky back when they were for sure under Pitino buying players, you know, to be able to go there and start over guys like Tayshaun Prince, you know, who went on to have a 15-year NBA career, to disappear and just fall off of the map and then reappear years later at South Dakota as a tight end, catching 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns. Like the level of athleticism that he possessed in whatever it is that he wanted to do was just so otherworldly to me that it's a shame that he wasn't able to, again, just have an opportunity to become that myth, because he's not around to still do stuff at 40 years old, 41 years old, that he would still be able to do because we're that level of athlete. You know, if I'm still able to do certain stuff that I was able to do, and I'm a broken 40, and him being a high level one of one, to be able to still do some of that stuff, it just would have been so monumental in the neighborhood for kids to see that these are our legends. They got robbed of, in my opinion, Reche and Desmond. They got robbed of some legends. Like, you ask anybody who knows anything about sports in the Tampa Bay area, they don't know Reche Caldwell and they don't know Desmond Allison. They don't know sports. No. Like, they don't know sports. I'll give them Kwame, because Kwame was a little bit quieter. It was at a time where there wasn't, but those two guys were as high profile gets, and they lived up to the hype. That was the difference, is they both lived up to the hype, and they did everything. They were not specialists. Neither one of them were specialists. They all did everything. They were involved in everything. And those people as examples, we need those people as examples, because too many people today are telling our young men and women that they have to do one thing with their life from the time that they're like, 7, 8 years old until they end up burnt out. They end up fatigued. They end up not really reaching their full potential because they never flex any of those other muscles. And those guys would have been great examples of this is how you can do it. You can be great at one thing, but you could also be great at other things without sacrificing being great at that one thing. Mm-hmm. And that's, I mean, I see it with women too, like the Weiland Twins. Terry and Keelan, they were volleyball players. They played basketball. They played softball. When they went off to college, one played basketball, one played softball.
Yeah.
At the highest levels, there was never a thought process that they didn't achieve those levels that they were supposed to because they didn't just play one sport. And so many times we don't get those examples, or we get the examples of like me where people are like, okay, yeah, coach, you were kind of sort of good, but I don't carry the same cachet that a Reche Caldwell or a Desmond Allison would have carried if they would have been able to get to a position similar to what I hold now, or even if I was able to be sitting here talking to them across, a Zoom conference or at a bar with some wings and being able to broadcast that to the world. So we really lose out on those things. And the sad part to me about it is these are not isolated. You can find a Reche Caldwell in every state. Almost in every major market, there's somebody that was so good and they went off and they did great things athletically, but their life was cut short. And now they're back. And now the city doesn't get a chance to reap what that person would have had to give. And that's, like, to me, that's really unfortunate.
And that's where I think, like, it's our, at least I feel that way, that it's our responsibility as coaches to try to help those kids that have those type of gifts as a young age. It's, to me, it's the longer I've coached, the longer I've realized that it has nothing to do with about winning games or state titles or anything like that. It's about building relationships and helping to mentor, young men and young women to handle that spotlight, because that spotlight, like we talked about earlier, it could be great, and it could also be a target. And you got to try to put, because you have to assume that there's so many negative things being put in these kids' ear. There's so many people telling them, oh, you're the greatest, you're the best, you're this, you're that, you can do whatever you want to. You don't have to listen to them. You don't have to, oh, he's tripping, he's doing this, blah, 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 blah. It's our jobs as men to pull them aside and give them the real lessons that they need, because there's so much negativity in their ear that it's our job to help trying to push them in the right way. And me as a coach, I always tell people, like, I'm not concerned with them as 17-year-olds. I'm concerned with them at 40. Like, if I have kids that come back and they're successful and they're good fathers and they're good, citizens and all that, like that's what makes me proud. I don't care how good of a player you were, but to watch you grow up and watch you become something and do something with yourself, that's where our role comes in. And, and as sad as it is to lose someone like a Reche Caldwell, or even when I was at Jefferson before, CJ Mills, the same thing. He got killed in his front yard, and it was another great, almost legendary, mythical type of personality. Is hopefully, future generations can learn from that and steer their life in a different direction, and say, maybe I don't need to hang out with those people, or maybe I need to, keep my circle small, or, maybe I do need to listen to coach a little bit more, or whatever. And it's a shame that tragedies like that have to happen. But, I truly feel like, that is my purpose in life, is to help mentor these young men and try to put them on the best path possible.
No, and that's all we can do at this point. It's all we can do. I think there's a part of us that has to not mourn, but to remember those that we were able to see with our own eyes, because there's always a recency bias. And people think, oh, well, this person is the greatest ever, and then you have to remind them, oh, hold up, brother. Like, there's only one Daryl Jackson. It's like there's only one of those. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to remind them of these people that came before them that were so good, that they had the 1% talent and the 1% production that a lot of these that isn't necessary a lot of times today in order to get somebody recruited at the highest level.
Don't forget, those guys also had a 1% work ethic.
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
what a lot of people don't. People just assume like, oh, he was so talented. Like people don't remember, like those dudes got to where they got because they worked their ass off.
They worked their ass off, and they loved it.
It was God-given talent.
Absolutely.
They worked there. I remember me and Reche used to go up. There's a park. If you go down Cypress in West Tampa, you go all the way down. There's a park with a big hill. There's basketball court. I can't remember the name of the park off my head. But me and him would sit there and we'd run sprints up the hills. And I remember I would be, I think I'd get a good workout in, and he would still, no, man, we got 10 more. 10 more? Like 10 more? And he was, and I remember he told me, he goes, I'm getting ready to go to the University of Florida. And I was like, damn, if he's doing 10, I got to do 10,
Absolutely. I remember we used to ride our bikes over to that hill. Like everybody ran that hill. That was the hill that the city of Tampa used for their slip and slide when they were having their big park event. That was the hill. Everybody would come over, and that was the hill they would use as part of their the obstacle course that they had. But like that was it. It's a different world now, and I get that because we were just outside all the time because that's what we did, So I don't ever default the fact that these young men and women can't. They're just not built like that now. They weren't built outside; they were built indoors, and so like the acclimation. You put a kid outside for 2.5 hours now, that kid's dying. Like that was just a normal thing. I used to tell people about the practices we used to have back at Gaither. They were just ridiculously long for no reason at all, and triple sessions and all this other ridiculous stuff.
Do you remember how we got water at Gaither?
Yeah.
There was the PVC pipe.
The PVC pipe with holes in it.
With the hose, and that was it.
Yeah.
Like now you have to have a water trainer and ice time and all this other stuff. Like
it's all, and I mean, I'm not even saying it's bad. What's that?
That we were literally drinking out of the hose.
We were drinking out of the hose, absolutely. We were drinking out of a PVC pipe that never got brought inside. That's what you remember. Like, there's not even remember what's inside that PVC pipe. I don't even want to know. Yeah. I just knew I was thirsty and I was going to drink that ish for sure.
All I know was that water used to hit because it was 100 degrees outside, and
that water was the best thing ever. It was the best thing ever at that time, for sure. I just know for our kids now, it's a different climate, different atmosphere, and I don't fault them for it. But I want them to understand that there was something before you. There's something that came along before you that was different. An era that was different. A way that you were recruited was different. I firmly believe me and my frame and my measurables today versus me, my frame, my measurables in '98. I'm an absolute guaranteed high level Division I prospect in there. But I came from a wing T offense in '98. So I didn't have the stats.
Put you in a spread offense now.
Today you don't even need the stats. You just need to have the measurables that they can transition to that level.
Not just that. Think about the access that the kids have to coaches now with Twitter and all of things. I mean, we couldn't put out a hype video about ourselves back then.
Weekly hype video.
Now, if you go to Twitter, you will see at least 15 hype videos of them running routes on cones, and they're like, putting in that grind.
Yeah.
It's like, I hate y'all.
Now because I used to actually put in that grind.
Yeah. Now you can go to Huddle and you can make a clip and highlight yourself and put some trap music to it and do all that kind of stuff. Back in the day, we used to have to go to our coach, get a VCH dubbed copy of a game tape and send it to coaches ourselves.
Yep.
And then they'd say, "Can you send us a highlight film?" Be like, "I don't know how to do that."
Yeah, like, can you and then you're like, "Can you send that tape back, please?"
Yeah,
like,
I need that tape.
Can you send that back so I can send it somewhere else? Like, it was a different world. I mean, I could imagine being able to put together like a video of me waking up in the morning, going to work, getting off work, going and working out for football, then leaving football and going to an AAU basketball game all in the same day. Like, that was the type of grind that we used to go through. And and again, it's not a diss versus, it's just, that's the type of thing that makes a one percenter of the one percenter a Reche Caldwell and a Daryl Jackson and a Desmond Allison, because, when I do it, I become good. I'm good. But when they do it, they become NFL stars or, NBA prospects, that kind of thing. And so it really is a difference of how you set up the grind now. And that thing is, I know for a lot of us, it's harder sometimes to put it aside and just work. But it's one of those things I try to remind people when they think they're working hard. It's like, you think you're working hard, there's no way that a 40-year-old man should be able to do the workout you're doing.
Yeah.
Because when I was 17, there was not a 40-year-old man alive that was doing the stuff that I was doing. This really would have been gassed out. I do remember one time during the summer when Daryl Jackson was home from Florida, we went to the YMCA and he took me through his workout, and I literally thought I was going to die. Like he was like, the weights he was lifting way more weight than he was lifting before he left for Florida. Yeah. And he came back and he was all of a sudden brolic, like strong, like grown man strong. Absolutely. And I remember we were doing these things and I was done. I mean, I don't think I worked out for like 2 days after that. Like, I was hurt.
You went home and took a nap. You worked out so hard.
Absolutely. Oh, for sure. Straight to the nap. Like straight to the couch. Not even go up the stairs, just walk in the door, boom, on the couch. That was it. It was good. Tell everybody give everybody your social now. Where can people follow you at? What you're doing?
But right now I'm on Twitter, and I gotta look it up because I really don't use it that much.
Gotta use it more, Coach. Man.
Oh, I know. I'm awful with social media. It's at Coach Van Meter 78. And that's my only social media. No Facebook, no Instagram, no TikTok, no Snapchat, no nothing. And,
none of that. So tell us before we got here, because I want to talk just a little bit about you. Like, what brought you into coaching, and how did you get from, where you were to out here out there in Land O'Lakes?
Okay, well, I played my college ball at Central Michigan University, and I came home and I was kind of done with football at that point. I was just, as you probably know, that grind is something real in college. And I came home, and one of my dad's friends, his son was playing Little League football at Citrus Park, the varsity, about 13, 14 years old. And he called my dad to ask him if my dad would be interested in coaching, because my dad coached me when I was in Little League. And, he told him, he said, I don't have the time for it, but, Spencer just came home. Let me ask Spencer if he would be willing to help out. And I said, hell no. I don't want to work with any jits. I don't want to go out there and, I'm done with football. I don't want nothing to do with football right now. And he just said, can you please just do it for me? It's for a friend of mine. It would mean a lot to me. Okay. Went out there and fell in love with it. Fell in love with coaching the kids. And it just happened that my quarterback was Steven Garcia, that ended up going to South Carolina, was a star at Jefferson High School. And so I coached him for 1 year. And the midget coach was the wide receiver coach at Jefferson High School, Lane McLaughlin. He was the head coach at CDS. Now he's at Bayshore. And he was like, hey, you're a Jefferson alumni. Come up, we need some coaches. Come on up and talk to the head coach, and who was Mike Simmons at the time. And so I went up there, and they said, hey, we need a defensive line coach. So I started out coaching defensive line, did that for 2 years. And then when he left to go to USF, I got the offensive line coaching job and run game coordinator. And coached there for years, won a state championship in 2010 with Andre Davis and Quentin Williams and all those boys. And I actually coached at Tampa Catholic for 1 year after I left. And then my friend, Jason Lane, who is the running back coach at Jefferson, got the head job at Chamberlain. So I followed him over there and was coaching. I was there for 4 years as the offensive coordinator. And then when the head coaching job opened up at Land O'Lakes High School, I applied, and my kids go there. So that's the only reason I applied there. I got a daughter who's going to be a senior. So talk about feeling old. And I'm going to have a son that's a freshman. And so I applied, and I was one of the 2 finalists. And they gave the job to Trace Bond, who was the defensive coordinator last year. But they asked me, hey, would you like to be the offensive coordinator, and we'll get you a teaching job? And I was like, absolutely. So went out there, and now I've been coaching via Zoom for the last 3 months. No spring football, and trying to install an offense that through Zoom, and that's not fun at all. But
not fun at all.
No,
Absolutely not.
But yeah, it's just something, I specialize in offensive line. I coached offensive line for 15 years, and I've been the offensive coordinator for the last 5 years at Chamberlain High School, and we put up a lot of points, and we've just really taken that Jefferson offense that we coached under for 12, 13 years and won a state championship with, and now I'm bringing it out to Pasco County. So just going to try to build
easier pickings out there in Pasco.
What'd you say?
Easier pickings out there in Pasco.
That you used to be able to say that, but not anymore. There's a lot of very good football out there now.
I was just there not too long ago.
Yeah, Mitchell High School is very good. Wiregrass is good. Pasco. There's a lot of schools out there.
I was at Zephyr Hills before I came up. Before I came up to Jefferson, before I came up to Georgia, that was the last. That was the year they really got it going at Zephyr Hills. I was on the receivers coach out there. But I was the defensive coordinator at Wharton.
Okay.
And had put in. I remember this because Cam. What is his last name? Coach Cam, whatever. He was the head coach at Chamberlain before Lane.
Oh, Cameron Jones.
Cam Jones, and the guy before him, when the dude before him got the job, I had applied for the Chamberlain job, and I didn't get the job, and I was like, they gave it to Cam, and I was like, okay, well, they wanted to keep it in-house, blah, blah, blah. Cam left, and I applied for the job again, but this time they knew me because my Wharton defense had just held them to 35 yards of offense, and didn't get the job, and Lane ended up getting the job.
Yeah.
And that's when I just realized, Hillsborough County, they don't really like me. They don't want to give me a gig. I for years, I just been around and, stacking up this resume, pretty impressive resume. And so I was like, well, they don't like me. They don't pay as well for teachers. I'm going to go somewhere where they pay teachers well.
Yeah.
And so I came up to Georgia. But I remember when when y'all took over there at Chamberlain, I was like, the right person gets in there and does some things, they can make some stuff happen.
And I tell you what, Jason Lane has done a phenomenal job. I'm really blessed to have worked with him for, the 12 years at Jefferson, and then watch him develop as a head football coach. He gets it. He's all about relationship building and, mentoring young men, not just about winning football games. And he's a great guy, great coach. He's done a phenomenal job, and he's got that thing rolling over there, man.
Yeah. It's hard to get it. It's hard to get it rolling to the state championship level because I just don't think that everybody's destined to be able to do that. But he definitely has them as a power in Hillsborough County. Mm-hmm. It'll be interesting to see all of these transfers and changes a lot of players flipping around. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. But Spence, man, I appreciate you talking to me.
Hey,
it was
man,
great
I appreciate
catching
you
up.
having me, man. Anytime.
It's bad that we have to talk about fallen friends.
Yep.
Next time we talk, let's make it about some more joyous stuff and
yeah, absolutely, man.
And have a little bit more fun. Talk some football specific stuff. I like that.
All right, man. Hey, anytime, man. Anytime.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. That's Spencer Van Meter, the offensive coordinator and coach of his son at Land O'Lakes High School.
Hey, hold on. Spoiler alert. He only plays baseball.
Oh, he doesn't play football.
He's
that's probably the best.
Left-handed pitcher. No football.
It's probably for the best. Like at the end of the day, I mean, left-handed pitcher, that's a good thing. But also he'd have to deal with you as his coach.
That is true.
That's gonna be tough when you gotta be coach and dad at the same time. So yeah, I know that there are some people who talk about how much fun it is. But then there's also people who talk about that there's a fine line you have to walk. So no, good luck to him in his baseball endeavors. Land O'Lakes they usually have a pretty good squad, and so I'm sure he'll keep progressing. Congratulations to your daughter. You said she's going to be a senior this year.
I'm getting old.
Wow, I know, right? It's a great thing, and definitely make sure y'all look out for Land O'Lakes High School. Coach Van Meter, he's a salt of the earth guy. Really legit dude. If he says something, he means it. He's always been a true to his word person, even back to when we were teenagers, and it's been good to reconnect, and I'm really excited to see what you're going to do over there.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. And good luck to you in your season. Hopefully you get to coach, not it's actual football this year.
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm pessimistically optimistic that we're going to play.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm 40-60 right now. I'm 40-60 on playing. I think there's 40% chance we play, 60% chance we don't.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes. I'm just hoping that school can get to some type of normalcy, because the way in which a lot of the virtual was done last year, that's just for the birds. I've got no problem.
I need to get back to school. My fiance, she needs me out of the house.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I've been Coach Gene Clemens. You can follow me everywhere at Gene Clemens. Make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, Coach Gene Clemens. Make sure you catch our X's and O's. We have a really good interview coming up that's going to drop tomorrow with new Buffalo Bills signee Isaiah Brown. So make sure that you check that out. I remember Ike back from the youth league days and coaching him back then. So it'll be really nice to catch up with him. And so for everybody here, we appreciate it. Y'all have a wonderful day.